Welcome aboard the bus. It was a strange day at the office. A bad day at the office, a strange one as well. Terry joins me. Terry, I usually look forward to these P.M.Ps because normally the results are already taken care of itself, and I just get an hour and a half of annoying you. Today I don't even feel like annoying you, pal. I'm not even in the mood to annoy Terry.
This is 2 in a row without a goal. I'm struggling today, to be honest.
I know, mate. I know there's a strange atmosphere about the whole of Celtic right now. We're going to discuss it all. Obviously, we'll quickly do the usual housekeeping, all that good stuff. Gives a wee like, gives a share, slag the hair, all that carry on. Bhoycie Bus members, there's loads of yours. It's $1.99, but all the content's free. PieSports.com, get a wee tasty discount using Bus 1888 at the checkout. Right, okay, enough of that shite. Let's just get stuck in.
$2 only sitting defrosting at the minute for me for later on. I'm looking forward to them. That's still the big batch that I ordered that night. I ordered fucking 40.
50 or so.
Postman's dandering up with 2 big boxes of fucking pies.
That's amazing. Right, okay. I tweeted after the game, Terry, I want your thoughts on this. I just said Rodgers looked a lonely, muted, and frankly a slightly lost character on the touchline just there. There seems to be a malaise across the club. A bonkers week of transfer activity won't solve the underlying issues. What's your thoughts on that?
Strange, Bhoycie. It's strange. Something just definitely doesn't feel right. I mean, I was looking forward to today's game. I really was, which is strange for a run-of-the-mill home game in the SPL where you, as we've kind of become accustomed to, you're expecting your team to turn up and win. But I was really looking forward to this one because I thought off the back of last week's result where we went out of that cup with an absolute whimper. Last week, I think today and last week were totally different in the way the games played out. Last week, we didn't create anything. We didn't do anything. We lacked quality. Today, we did create as many chances as we wanted. We had enough chances to win 3, 4, 5 games, but it still comes down to the same thing. We didn't have the quality to get the job done. And I'd love to know when the last time Celtic went 2 domestic games in a row without scoring. That's got to be a long time ago.
It's a fair question, eh?
Brendan, I mean, last week I questioned on the post-match. Whenever he came in post-Postecoglou, I mean, what I was expecting, and the summer's totally gone the opposite way from what I expected, because what I thought was we've got a successful team, we've got a really strong core of the side. There'll be a few sprinklings of stardust, a little bit of tweaking from Brendan in terms of formation, and we'll go into the new season really strong. Whereas we seem to have gone from that to a complete transition in the way that we're going to play. They're almost an overhaul in terms of the makeup of the squad, and it's just so strange. It's just not the summer I had hoped for and predicted. And even then, going into Brendan, I talked about as we were going out of the cup, he was going to suffer his first trophy that he wasn't going to win in Scottish football. I was looking to him to do something from the sideline, and I was disappointed. I was thinking, come on, show us a wee bit more. I mean, he's standing there in his suit, he's looking pristine. I wanted him to do something, because that's what we became accustomed to in his first spell was, if something's not going right, we've got this quality manager who will find a way to get the job done. He couldn't do it last week, and he couldn't do it again today. And I said to you just before we come on, I'm a little bit torn, because I thought we played okay today, right up until about 70th minute. And I always have that 70th minute checkpoint in this kind of game where I'm not bothered up until the 70th, because I just feel we'll get the job done. But once we made those changes, once he looked to his bench to change the game and get the result, I felt we were gone. We were gone when those substitutions were made, because we didn't create the chances after that. And it looked a 0-0 from about 60, 70 minutes onwards. Really disappointing. I mean, you look at the bench last week, and we talked about this on the P.M.P, and you look at the bench again today, and you're relying on James Forrest, great servant as he is. You're relying on Haksabanovic, who has probably got one foot out the door. You're bringing on Ralston for Johnstone. It was great to get Johnstone back, and you could see straight from the off the the value he was adding. He was driving us forward on the left-hand side. The manager had already sort of said he's not going to finish the game. But fuck me, once we made them changes, the drop-off in terms of the chances we were creating, it was massive. And then you actually seen St Johnstone coming into the game in the last 20, and to be honest, they could have nicked a goal, albeit a great save from Joe Hart, who I'm very quick to point out his weaknesses. He made a tremendous reflex save.
Yeah, I thought both goalkeepers were good today, to be honest.
Yeah, their goalkeeper. I mean, I look at the chances. The ones that are kind of sticking in my throat are the two O'Reilly ones, because he connects with them and they just go straight at the goalkeeper. I mean, anywhere else in the goal, there in the net. And that game today, boys, I mean, we had 19 corners. We get the breakthrough any time in the first half. That ends up a 4-0, a 5-0. You and me are sitting here going, what were we worried about last week? This is all under control. Look forward to next week. Chance to go 6 points clear. And now we're sitting here and I'm thinking, fucking hell, we were going to get a chance to go 6 clear next week, almost a free hit. And we could come out of next week fucking 2 points behind. And depending on how the transfer window goes, wondering where we're going, what direction we're going in. But
we will soon find out. I mean,
TikTok, as you say, TikTok
indeed. I was relatively calm about the transfer window. I thought with a treble winning squad, they will be adding the quality later on, and that'll be the plan, because it'll be that next level. Instead, we've seen on the park today, Terry, guys like Liam Scales. He was signed 2 years ago as a project player then. He's never really cut the mustard. James Forrest, sporadic appearances last season. He finished the game today. You look at who else played? Haksabanovic, he's a sideline player. He finished the game today. David Turnbull started today. I mean, he was nowhere near the picture. It just seems like guys that were sort of backup players before have been elevated to now the first team. Now, injuries have played a part in that. Let's not, kid ourselves on here. But for whatever reason, it does feel like there's a regression right now. You can't deny it. It seems to be there for all to see. Whether it's the players not buying into these new methods or taking their time, I think we need to remember when Ange came in, the players far more exciting type of football, yet the players didn't really seem to get that either, right? At first. They looked a bit disillusioned with what their actual tasks were. And there was a bit of panic on my part at that point with Ange. And I don't blame people for panicking right now when they see a negative style of play struggling to be implemented by the players.
Can I just jump in on that one, right? I've been struggling with that one all week. When did Brendan Rodgers become Jose Mourinho, a negative pragmatic manager? Because Brendan Rodgers made his name in the game for being an imaginative attacking coach with fast attacking football. When has that actually changed? Has that changed from his last season with us, or when? Because we're now talking about this negative. You've described the play as negative. When did we become, or when did he become a manager who encourages negative football? Because he was one of the managers who was lauded for his swashbuckling attacking style of football with his Swansea team, his Liverpool team, the teams that he had down there. And when he first came to Celtic, we looked at that as being, we've got a manager who's now introducing great attacking football that's going to be great to watch. But now we're using words like negative and slow, and I'm sort of lost in where along that journey did Brendan become a manager who doesn't play fast attacking football? Where's that change? Where's that change of direction?
It's an interesting question. That here's one thing I would say is a bit getting lost in translation at this moment in time, where they're taking almost like his more pragmatic, if you like, or his slower pace of possession based football. It's almost like the players are taking it from one extreme to another. And I mean, sometimes the players need to take responsibility too. I don't want to single out people in a like it's all their fault sort of thing. I'll give you an example to back up what I'm saying right now. William Scales today, 4, 5, 6 touches before he can play a square ball. And I just didn't see an urgency and impetus. And sometimes the players need to take fucking responsibility, Terry, and make things happen when they're on the ball. I feel as well, to now focus my attention on the manager, don't come back as Rodgers light. You fucking bring in your own backroom team. You don't just accept the same mistakes that we've seen Lenny make. You don't do that. And whether that is it Chris Davies is normally his assistant. I think he ironically went to Spurs with Ange. But notwithstanding that, Brendan's been a manager now for the last 15 years. He is going to have guys that he is and trusts in football that understands his methods and can help get the message across quicker. Clearly, they think or thought process was John Terry would be back to his being go-to guy. But since Rodgers has been there, John Kennedy's actually been manager of Celtic at one point. He's been an assistant boss during the COVID season. He's also then been the assistant to Ange playing rock and roll football. Whatever message or however on message Rodgers and Kennedy were 5, 6, 7 years ago, Terry, isn't relevant now. I just feel that he should have brought in someone with him and get this message across either more succinctly, more concisely, clearer. Whereas right now, it does look to me like they don't get what they're meant to be fucking doing. And I almost feel like there's maybe a reluctance to stop playing the type of football because that's how kids want to play. They want to play this crazy attacking football. But it almost feels they've took the message, as you rightfully say, as this a massive negative. And it felt exaggerated at times how slow we were playing. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake. Even I don't think Rodgers is like that. So he's going, oh, aye, this is exactly how I've told them to play. Fuck it, come on. It can't all be like that. But then, as I say, this is where Rodgers has to take responsibility. He came back to Celtic a different man so far. He's got a week in this transfer window to start exerting some authority on this football club again, the way he did last time. As I said, I think it was in the Celtic here show I was on the other day, I went, the reason we were gutted, right? The reason we were gutted about Brendan leaving the last time is for how good we thought he was and that demeanor that he had. That all worked. So don't come back as a different version of that. Go back to being the exact Brendan Rodgers that you were before. Just Celtic. Bhoycie, why are you talking about Ange? Oh my God, mate. You just took over for him, just Celtic. I give up with folk. Anyway, back to Brendan. Terry, that's my thoughts on it. I think right now he has been a bit of a shadow of his former self. And I did think he cast a bit of a lonely figure in that touchline at spells in that second half today.
Yes, on the touchline, Bhoycie, also in the press conferences, there's just something lacking from him. And that's not just picking up on the back of those results. There was things he said before the Kilmarnock match, and you're sitting there going, are you really saying that? Have you really come back for what you're saying? Touch back on Scales as well, Bhoycie, because I'll be honest, I was hoping Scales would play today, and the reason for that was I didn't see the point of having all of this squad packing if you can't use these guys when you're in an emergency. I didn't think Scales had done a lot wrong in a Celtic shirt. There was one game against Bodo. Apart from that, I thought Scales was as safe a bet as Burnaby and not far off Taylor. Today was the first time he played for us in that centre-back role in a competitive game. I thought he was ponderous in possession. Ponderous would be the word I would use. He was... compared to Lagerbielke, I thought he looked good in possession. He looked as if he's got a range of passing that's more than just left to right and back to the goalkeeper. He looked okay. But when you're a centre half for Celtic in a game against, let's face it, that's one of the worst teams in all 4 leagues so far this season. They got humped by teams in the League Cup. I think
they're a local team. Still, they're humped them 4-0.
So that's currently the worst team in the SPL and one of the worst teams in all 4 leagues. So we didn't have a lot to do defensively. That said, St Johnstone did create 2 chances, which Joe Hart bailed us out. Scales was called on twice to defend, and he didn't do it. And whereas if we had turned in a good performance today and he had looked reasonably secure, I would have been thinking, right, we go into next week and we play the same team. I'm thinking we need somebody else to go in and help us out there at the back for next Saturday. We really do. So again, it's probably a little bit harsh to judge the guy because you've got to remember he's been away for a year. He's been with another team. But what we keep saying, boys, is these fringe players, they ain't going to get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games to make an impression. They're going to get their chance when that chance arises. If that's 20 minutes at the end of the game, or if that's getting thrown in when we're missing 4 centre halves, you've got to make the most of that chance. And the guys that are coming in, they ain't been doing it other than Yang, who I thought was impressive today.
Yeah, some interesting comments coming in. I think Glasgow CSC's got a point here with some of the quotes. I'll see you in May was one of the more bullish comments. We need to, I'm here to make an impact in Europe, I think he said. It's hard to compete in Europe. I coach the players given to me. Something has happened, it feels like, to Glasgow CSC.
That's not Brendan Rodgers, Bhoycie. He said those words, but that's not Brendan. That's not Brendan McNeil.
That's what he's saying. It's like he's bollockless. That's what Glasgow CSC's saying. It's like exactly. Something's changed. I'm struggling right now to understand how we fix this in time of the trip to Ibrox. Now, at the end of the day, the league won't be won or lost at Ibrox.
Definitely not.
It's a marker. It's points. I'm not going to go into full-blown panic mode or anything like that right now.
Well, go back to my point, Bhoycie. When was the last time we went 2 domestic games without scoring? And then when was the last time we went 3? So I'm thinking if we're going to get...
I've got an answer for that. I've got a decent answer for the reasoning behind that, Terry. When was the last time we went 2 games in a row without a substitute striker on the bench?
Fair.
That's fucking mental. How can a squad winning a treble, having all those cash reserves, ever go into a football match without a striker on the bench? This is crazy. And then we wonder why we're not scoring goals. Kyogo's playing a different role. That's the manager's gift to decide to do that if he sees other qualities in Kyogo, absolutely. But there's no other fucking support for him. O gets injured. O is a project signing. That's not a criticism of O. He's a project player. We all know that. Then there's nothing. Not one other striker. I've never known this, Terry. I don't understand how there can be such a laid-back sort of attitude towards that, and how we couldn't have looked at a striker from the moment Brendan was appointed. Now, if that meant they were waiting for a higher level striker, I'd be surprised. I think it would have been one to supplement Kyogo, who is far and away the talisman of the team. I don't understand how a club, and this is the first time in my Celtic supporting life, and my first season would have been 94, 95 that I can proper remember. This is the first time I've ever seen Celtic start football matches without a striker on the bench. And yet, this is the most cash-rich since then, and since my Celtic support time, we've ever been as well. Try and square that circle for me, Terry.
No, I know. You've been consistent over even last season about the need for another striker. I mean, my thoughts are Kyogo starts every match, and if he's not available, you've got O or Maeda, and the thought process is there's 3 players there that can play that position. We only ever play one. We'd be very, very unlucky to have all 3 out. I think that's the thought pattern. I think whether that changes between now and next Thursday, Bhoycie, I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't expect a striker this summer. To be honest, I didn't expect wingers either. I thought we would maybe bring in 2-3 real upgrade players who were on a different level to what we had. We keep everybody else, and we have a real go at making a dent in a Champions League group. And it's just gone completely tits up, hasn't it?
It's such me. Do you know what? See, I'm going to go back to what I tweeted. I said it feels like there's a malaise around the club, Terry, right? Again, let's try and put a finger on why that is. Because let's be honest, Brendan's came back. There was always going to be an element of the supporters going, he's still a rat to me. Yada, yada. That's fair enough.
Forget all that.
But I think there is an element of supporters that, if you go on social media, I don't share that view, by the way. But if you go on Twitter, you're already see you didn't want the rat back and stuff like that. That is far and wide. There is a percentage of fans that think like that.
I thought there could have been a banner today, to be honest.
Yeah, so did I.
I was expecting a banner with sort of 5 days to go in the transfer window and last week's result and the expectations going into the summer. I was expecting I thought the old sleep at the wheel banner could have come back out again, made a reappearance.
That wouldn't have surprised me at all. But let's talk about then why I think there's why there is. It feels like there's a malaise, because it does seem the manager's became a bit of a diluted version of himself, and it does feel like he's lost a wee bit of his poise in his sort of pressers and things like this. It does seem a wee bit like I'm just batting hands left, right, and centre. It's great fun. But by the way, if they've got nothing better to do, remember and watch all the ads, pal. But at the end of the day, Terry, when we look at Rodgers' demeanour, he does seem a wee bit diluted, as I was saying. Then you've got the board, with apparent reluctance to invest from a position of strength is marked. Twitter seems to be going back to COVID season vibes where let's say happy birthday and let's now start promoting fucking more tracksuit tops, bottoms, etc. You know, what, a month after the big release of 3 different kits at £70 a pop. Taking the piss, mate. They want people to keep putting their hands in their pocket, but they don't. They are not willing to reciprocate that. So you've got 2 aspects there. Then there's this other one where it comes to the actual product in the park that we've discussed. And I think when you combine all 3, a manager who, for whatever reason, doesn't have the same swagger, a board that have absolutely reverted to type so far in terms of their expenditure. We don't even have a striker on the fucking bench. That is not supporting a manager. End of story. And that's only one example. So a board not willing to spend, and a supporter base, maybe some of the distrust in the manager, maybe some pining for Ange still and the style of football, and just for whatever reason, across the board, and this is where I'll include myself, as a sofa, what was it they call it, a couch supporter, whatever, fuck knows. But I usually watch the games, Terry. You get to that last 10 minutes if we're drawing, and I'm standing up about a yard away from the telly, right? Just because you're involved in it, right? You're engrossed. I watched the last 10 minutes today, sat back on the sofa, just not giving a not giving a fuck, but just with an air of inevitability about what the outcome was going to be. And that was, we wouldn't score. I don't like feeling like that. And if I'm like that in the house, and I've been one of the most avid supporters of Brendan coming back since he did, then what's the rest of the fan base like? How did they feel during those last 10 minutes? And I think that is the icing on the cake for me, when you don't even believe your own team at home to St Johnstone will score with 8 minutes injury time. You don't even have a bit of belief that they will. I think that is the icing on the cake of, for whatever reason, has been a summer of a real malaise kicking in at Celtic Park.
Well, she's just touching on something that you kind of alluded to there. The impact from the performances, from the result, from the direction that we seem to be going in. Celtic supporters are turning on each other. I mean, you can see it. You can see it in our own group chat. You can see it in the various social media, all of that kind of thing. And you touching there on, you're describing yourself as being an armchair supporter or a TV supporter.
I said armchair supporter. That's the one.
Who's got any right to tell anybody how anyone should support Celtic? You support Celtic whatever way you want to support them, and you get your enjoyment from it. It's fucking nobody else's business whether you go to every home game, every away game, or you never go to a game. You support the team whatever way you want to support them. And there's too many people very quick to point out how you should support Celtic, or you're not a proper supporter if you don't go to every single game and all this piss. You support the team the way you want. You take from it what you want to take from it. I hate all that nonsense, but what I hate more than anything is supporters turning each other, and you can just feel tension in all aspects of social media and supporters interacting with each other, and that's all coming from what you're seeing on the pitch and what you're not seeing in terms of the squad and all that kind of thing. With 5 days left, Bhoycie, to try and improve the squad, I've kind of flitted at different stages. I was going from a position opposite to yours, where I don't think we'd any intention of doing business at the end of the window. I don't think we were in for the players that were on that list. And I know the links. We'll look at the players we were linked with. The Kieran Tierney ones, which in hindsight were unrealistic. Scott McTominay, it would be a massive leap of faith to think that's going to happen. You've names like Podence, Eric Dyer, the 2 lads at Man City, Fabian Reeder, Rob Holding was also mentioned. They're the names that have been bandied about for most of the summer, and Celtic have been linked with those most of the summer. I believe everybody on that list will probably move between now and Thursday. Will any of them be coming in through the doors at Celtic Park?
Well, let's be real here. I mean, whilst we can only speculate, speculate on the potential list of candidates that we'd be looking to strengthen. Or what is it? Tony Haggart used to always say, the persons of interest. It was a good one.
Love that.
I used to like that.
I love that.
Leanne Campbell, she always likes to be moaned whenever she comes in. Ridiculous meltdown. Welcome to the show, Leanne. That's what happens. It is the nature, sadly, of the beast. But yeah, I just think, Terry, when it comes to that list of players that you've said, that, yeah, of course, there's speculation that that's the guys that we want because of certain reportage and things like that. But I wonder if we will be busier than you think this week. I'm still optimistic of that. But my bigger concern now is if these problems do indeed run deeper at the club because of boardroom interference, because Brendan's not getting the message across, because fans are turning on each other, as you say, and disillusioned, then I think even a bonkers rock and roll next 6 days of transfer activity just might not be enough, Terry, to turn this around as much as we would like. Now, regardless, we will win more games than we lose under Brendan between now and the end of the season, absolutely. But in terms of where we're at right now, or how much it feels like the bus, if you like, not this bus, but has slowed down a wee bit. It's like, I don't mean the tempo in the park, but it just feels like everyone's just got a wee bit slowed. It's just slowed down. Everything's just a wee bit fucking difficult. Everyone's a wee bit awkward. Everyone's a wee bit sluggish, slow, tired. I think even 4 or 5 signings, mate, might not be the answer right now. We need to get to the root of the problem. And I wonder if the harmony at the club is quite what we were hoping it was going to be. And the compromises we presumed would have been made between Board and Brendan, whether they actually were or not, or Dermot's just made a decision, made a judgment call, convinced Brendan, and then left him to it with that Board. And we're actually just back to exactly how 2018-19 was inevitably playing out with their relationship.
Bhoycie, regardless of the manager change and change of philosophy or perceived change of philosophy of the new manager and things like that, the players that were there last year that are still there this year, they're still the same players. I've got a niggle in the back of my mind that's annoying me a little bit, and I talked about in that last 2-3 months where we knew we were going to win the league and there was a real noticeable drop off in intensity and performance. And you and I were at pains. We were sort of taking conflicting views where you were going, look, league's won, job's done, doesn't matter. And I'm thinking, okay, I get that. But where it might matter, one of the points we were looking at, where it might matter is if this continues on into the start of next season and we can't fucking lift it again. And I'm not saying that's definitely what's happened, but when you allow the standards to drop even slightly, even a few percent, and you allow yourself to get into bad habits, it's very fucking hard to pick that up again. Now, I know it's not exactly the same squad of players. There's been changes, but the core is still the same. And these performances at the start of this season are not a million miles off what we were seeing during that period where it felt the players have been allowed to reduce the intensity and slacken off a little bit because the job had been done. I don't know. I could be talking nonsense.
No. I said this the other day. I feel like the drop off in displays, Brendan's taking a hell of a lot of flack for something that we kind of, if we look at the last third of last season,
start of March onwards.
Yeah, that's up. Yeah.
Once the job was done, once we'd won the
even before then, the performances weren't.
Once we knew the league was secure.
But remember, if you actually remember, Terry, what we were quoting from probably about February onwards, this team know how to get the job done. We find a way to win. See, when you start thinking about it and you're using those statements, what does that tell you? The performance level wasn't great, right? And that's the spin you could put on it because we get the 3 points, right? However, when you think about it, the performance levels for in Brendan's time so far haven't been as big a drop-off as what is being made out when you consider that Scottish Cup final against Inverness to now. And I would say it's maybe went down a wee bit, but not by all that much, to be honest. Just the tempo's a wee bit slower. But we're pished then, and we've been pished so far this season. That is the reality. Okay?
Take today, boys. Take today. There were games last season under Ange where we played a lot worse than we did today, and we scored a goal late on, and everything kind of, the goal makes the difference because you get the points, you go home happy. Yeah, you've got the result.
Totally agree.
I'm thinking, was there a home game against Dundee United where Abada scored in the 97th? Was that last season or the season before? There definitely were games last year where we scored a late
was the season before.
We scored a late goal, and that changes the whole outlook. And today, I genuinely don't think we were that bad today. 19 corners doesn't lie. We were crossing the ball in, we were shooting everything. We were doing everything right except putting the ball in the net, and we just didn't have the quality in that third. If you've 19 corners, my goodness, the domination and the opportunity to score was massive. And I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think Brendan, I think we'll be sitting here in 3 months and we'll not be worrying about these couple of games. Yes, it's absolutely stinking to get knocked out of the cup. It's horrible that I've paid 15 quid
Couple of games
buy a play
here
for a
and
month, and I'm only getting the second half of last week out of it. That's annoying me. But we're at the start of the season here. I'm confident come Christmas we'll not be talking about today. We'll not be talking about Kilmarnock. The manager and the group of players, the core group of players, I'm talking the captain, I'm talking the main guys that you're relying on there, that they will turn this around. But we just need a wee bit of help at the minute. We've had no help in terms of the injuries and stuff like that. I think
has Brendan helped himself, Terry? Has Brendan helped himself? And now you know how much I am on board with this being the right managerial appointment. That was something I was absolutely desperate to happen. Delighted that it did. I've backed him the whole way. But when we look at what's happened so far in terms of level of performance, and when we look at the last two results that neither have ended in victory, which
it was very different performance in both those games, though, Russell, wasn't there? Though I thought today we were far better than last week.
Well, first half, I thought second half. I don't know. But what I will say as well, we have to obviously everyone take their share of responsibility.
Yeah.
So see, from Brendan's point of view, has he helped himself so far? Has he been assertive enough in getting the message across? Remember with Ange, maybe I'm not getting my message across to the board that, the need for players. Remember he said that in his first ever window? Boom, suddenly things started happening. Now, I know that's great saying that with hindsight, but I just get a vibe off him that maybe by not bringing in your own backroom team, a fatal mistake that Lennon made in his second time here, not doing that, not insisting on having at least one player you could definitely associate as a Brendan Rodgers signing. Not even one. Find your bollocks and fucking tell them. I know you've got the model, but there's going to be compromise here. This is who I want to come in. This is a guy who I know is going to work in my system. Not you suggesting players for me and then me trying to coach them into my system, because that is going to be a process and that is going to be a time-consuming one. You don't get time at Celtic. So I just wonder if we're being honest, and as I say, no one is defending Brendan more so far than me, but everyone at Celtic needs to take responsibility when things don't go great. And the last, I think since the start of the season, things haven't been great. And I just wonder what level of responsibility we can attribute to Rodgers and maybe not quite getting his message across assertively enough, Terry.
I think Bhoycie, he'll certainly be taking a look at himself. I mean, the words that he said, do you remember when he said, I'll be here for 3 years unless I get emptied? Something just sunk in my heart when he said those words, because I'm thinking, what if this all went tits up and the board just used those words to turn around and go, now he has said that, he can't walk away. We've got him right where we want him. I'm sure it's not the case. I mean, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you logged onto your Celtic News now and you seen that Rodgers had walked away, and he'd walked away because he didn't get what he was promised, he didn't get the backing, I tell you what, I would have a hell of a lot of respect for him, because if that's what's going on and he took that stance now, as opposed to the last time where that's probably one of the things that happened, but he then got tarnished for the way he left. If you woke up tomorrow morning and he had gone and he had said, I've gone because I was promised X, Y, and Z and I was given nothing and I can't do my job without the backing, at least it would all make sense, wouldn't it? It would make sense. And it just feels like there's no way he has come in without assurances of what he's going to be able to do. And there's no way he's coming in to coach projects from all over the world that the club bring in from. I don't care what he says. I don't care.
He's a sitting duck if he does.
There's no way. There's no way he.
I'm the same as you, Terry. I think it would be a personality transplant.
If he's happy with that, yes. If he's happy with that, something's happened in his life where he's got a completely different outlook on life than the man that walked out that door. The man that walked out that door 4 years ago left for career development and his own personal ambition and burning desire to better himself. If he's now happy to coach projects that somebody else is bringing in for him and that's his lot, he gets contentment from that. Something's seriously changed his outlook on life. Is he in another midlife crisis where he's now going into a period where he's just content to be here? And I don't know. I think the next 5 days, Bhoycie, will tell a big tale. If we don't see some proper quality players coming in, then I don't have any confidence that Brendan will be here very long.
It's interesting, isn't it, as well, by the way, because see, when it comes down to it, one of the other things where Celtic have really shot themselves in the foot with, whether people want to fall into conspiracy theories or not, the second they went and tried to pull the wool over fans' eyes by announcing Peter Lawwell as a non-executive chairman, they set themselves up for a fall. Now, whether we're right that he's involved or whether you're wrong and you don't think he's involved or whether it's the other way around, there's going to be that suspicion because you've put him back in situ. The fact that they've got the audacity now to just call him the chairman as if he wasn't, when the only person with the chairman in his title at the club is always the chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Let me assure you of that. So whether it said non-exec in front of it was completely irrelevant because there was no one else with chairman in their title. They now just call him chairman. We have to be honest here. That is a name that polarises fans. And the vast majority of do not like even seeing his cooking anywhere. Why bother taking that risk? Why bother having that attention now shone upon the board all over again? The mad thing is about this, and I'll go back to this. If you told the protesters 2.5 years ago, Terry, right? They went 100 days, sacked the board. Ange won a few games of football, Terry, and everyone fucking forgot about the board again. What the board did was play musical chairs with the job titles. And then you got buy one Lawwell, get one free. There's now 2 Lawwells for the price of one at the club. If you told those protesters then that in 2.5 years, it'll be 2 Lawwells and it's the exact same bulldog with different job titles, they would have went impossible. That's it. And you actually will take your eye off the board once we start winning games again. None of them would believe it. But that's the situation you find yourself. And then once results don't go your way or signings aren't made and fans keep parting with their hard-earned cash, guess what? When Peter Lawwell's there, his name will just start coming up all over again, time and time again. That's on Celtic. That was a needless risk that they did to do that. And it tells me he has an undue influence there and always has. Otherwise, there was no point in bringing him in as a non-executive chairman who, he's got no involvement in anything. Why the fuck would you bring such a toxic name back? You wouldn't. And one thing fans will also join the dots with, whether it's right or not, I'm just giving you observations here, Terry, not necessarily my opinion.
No.
But what I will say is, see the fucking, see the windows since Lawwell's return. Do you know what I mean? You look at those transfer windows and they look eerily similar to times gone by.
I think it's so well though. Lawwell was there when we spent 9 million on Edward. He was there when we spent 7 million on Julian. Do you know what I mean? He was there. He was there during those times. As you know, I don't have much care for boardroom discussion and stuff. I really focus on what's on the pitch, but I obviously appreciate it's all intertwined, and we don't know For all
We're
we
talking
know,
about though the other fans, Terry, rather than just your point of view. What I'm trying to get across here is you've got to accept whether you're only focused on the park or not.
what I'm
That
going
ain't
to say
how
is,
the fans are.
Peter Lawwell could have absolutely no influence, or he could have lots of influence. We don't know, but people will perceive, because he's back and because things aren't going our way and because we haven't spent the money, as you say, people are joining the dots. People are joining the dots, and he then becomes a figure of focus that, banners appear and his face is on them and all that kind of stuff.
This is it. And that's the thing. We don't know what his influence is. We don't know, right? See, if he's not at the club though, Terry, you do know. And that's why I just see it then as an unnecessary risk. I see it now as something that only adds another unnecessary layer to a transitional phase that the club's in by switching back to a manager who left in murky circumstances the last time, when there's been no money spent this summer, when the performances so far have been a bit turgid.
There hasn't been no money spent, Bhoycie. There's been money spent. There's been about 14 million spent, but it's been spent.
We brought in 25 on Jota, so
it's
they've
been
not
spent in the wrong way.
Terry.
It's been spent in the wrong way, is my point. It's been spent on ones, twos, and 3 million.
20 million in profit, Terry. We've not spent anything.
I know.
That's not spending.
I know. However, where I'm going with this is we're going down that same fucking route of 1, 2, 3 million pound players. Hope some of them are hits. Even if you look at on really small sample size, Yang looks as if he could be a hit. Quan looks like a total dud. Tilio we haven't seen yet. Home is he might be all right, he might not. I can't even remember who the fucking other one was. Well, you've got the two defenders, and we haven't seen enough of them to make comment on. None of those six are an upgrade on what we had last season. That's all I know. We've spent 14 million, and we're no further on than we were last season. We're actually 2 players down because we've lost 2 mainstays from the team. That 14 million, if we'd gone out and brought in 2 upgrades with that, I think that money would be better spent rather than stockpiling the team with number 6s and players who we won't rely on even in a crisis.
So this is where it gets interesting as well.
Because I don't think Quan ever pulls on a Celtic jersey again, and that's based on 30 minutes.
Me neither. But let's get the sound right as well, Terry. Right? See, for years, I was kind of sympathetic to this argument, if I'm honest. When we had Champions League qualifiers to navigate, there was clearly going to be at times, Terry, an element of, well, we can't just go all out bringing in players for the qualifiers. I would rather we tooled ourselves up more for the qualifiers than we did, but I accepted to an extent the argument that we can't do that because if we still don't make it, then we've spent money that we're not bringing back in the group.
Safety first approach every summer. We took the safety first approach. We never speculated.
But Terry, we've had the guaranteed group stage 2 years in a row. Yep. And it's still the same. It's still the last week.
Now it's a difficult market. It's a difficult market.
Yeah, it's just an argument moving. Yep. I'm glad you're saying it because now this is where you start to go, oh, it's all just bullshit. You just don't want to do it unless your hand is
forced. I said to you 2 weeks ago, you said to me in the last post-match that we done, because you had a wee week off last week, which you're more than entitled to. You've talked about this end of the window. I've said to you, good footballers have been getting transferred from the fucking day the window opened. There's no need to wait to this end of the window. I get the argument that
it's not because I thought that was right.
No. I totally understand the argument. The players that you're wanting to bring in who are better than what we've got have got multiple options. They need to wait to see if they're in the thoughts of their own club. They need to see what other options they may have in the EPL, the Bundesliga, fucking whatever other league. That's all right, but there are hundreds and thousands of good footballers across the world. There have been players getting transferred from before the window even opened. We've left it to the last 5 days to try and bring in quality, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
I tell you what, this week I predicted would be bonkers, Terry. Right? I said the last 2 weeks would be bonkers. Right?
Do you think, Russell, I'll ask you a question. I have my own answer on this. Do you think we'll break 4 million this week? I don't think we will.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we will.
I do. I think the backlash now Almost, as again, they're a reactive board, Terry. They're not a proactive board. Deep down,
That's the only thing. That's the only
here's
thing.
another. Yeah,
Today's result might help.
And last week's.
strange way.
Yep. And then this is the bad thing. And I'll also go back to it. The knives are sharpening when two group stage footballs. What's that? Let's just say ballpark. What's that? 60 million quid revenue between the TV money and everything that it brings, the extra ticket money for the European gates, all that carry on, as well as the prize money. I don't know, 50 to 60 million. Then we've brought in 30 million this summer in transfer fees, mate. There's the torch that will be shone upon all this will get brighter and brighter if results aren't going our way. Now, here's the actual thing. Do you know what? I always thought there'd be one or two that Brendan would have been trying to get in the final week that he'd have went, I can only get them on loan the last week of the window once other situations play out. I think it's a fair argument. See, now it's the matter of if we end up going into this season having made a profit of fucking, even in terms of net spend in the transfer market, despite all the European money coming in as well, fuck me. That is going to go down. It's just going to go nuts. You can feel it already coming. People are beginning now, even the people who were zen, as I was saying a couple of weeks ago about everything, now it's like all eyes are laser focused on the board's next moves here. And for that, I urge Brendan Rodgers to find his cojones, prove that he's still the exact same as he was, and start being a pest for minute one. For now, start chapping that door and start getting them to help. Because here's the worst bit, Terry. Let's just say we'd won all our games this season. I think it would have been 1 or 2 at the end of this week, not 5. They would have just hoped and relied on the manager to dig them out and them just to keep piling up the profits. That's the reality.
That's the only way these last 2 results can turn into a positive, Bhoycie, if it tips the scales in terms of scales. It tips the scales in terms of fucking going out. I just don't understand this vision when Brendan was announced of we want to make a dent in Europe. What the fuck did they think they were going to do if you lose 2 of your first team players from last year and you don't replace them? How are we going to make a dent in Europe? I talked about thinking Brendan would come in and no matter what the draw looks like on Thursday, which again, that's supposed to be something that you look forward to, is a Champions League draw that you're in for the group stages. Fucking hell. See that 2 points that Ange got last year, at the minute that's looking quite good. No matter who we get.
If that's the measure of your dreams, Terry, you're fucked. Because that's not a progressive football club.
Look at our defence today.
You're right.
Look at our defence today. Let's take Alistair Johnstone out of that because he's only just back. If you were getting into a Champions League game against anybody in that draw with Joe Hart, Ralston, Lagerbelka, Scales, and Greg Taylor, that's your back 4 in the Champions League in the year that you've gone out to your support and told them your intention is to fucking make a dent in Europe. Fucking hell.
CJ comes in, and we're going to go to the comments, Terry, for the next half an hour or so, right? If you've got
good,
time.
Yeah.
Let's do it, because I think there's a lot of fans. We've got 432 people
I might need a pee.
live.
That's
all right, Terry. That's all right. I can hold the fort, but 432 live right now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Give us your likes.
Misery loves company. It's undeniable. It's a quote from Mark Kearney, funnily enough.
I am getting pissed. I don't give a fuck. I'm getting pissed.
I've got a couple of
2 minds and it's just swung it.
You're all right, mate. That's okay. CJ comes in. We're going to kick off with him, and he says there's no benefit to this at all. The board thinking a named manager would cover the pish signing policy that is now back in place. I think CJ's on the fucking money there, Terry, for me. Like, I just agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that is bang on. We are seeing if Brendan is as good as made out, then let's just leave him to it and hope he digs us out a hole and nobody looks over here. But now results haven't went our way, and performances in particular. I think the fans are more annoyed at the performances than the results, if I'm honest, at this stage. Right? That is my honest hunch. I think it's the performances that are freaking fans out. Now it's all eyes on the board. They would have tried to have got away with this. I think CJ's right there, Terry.
I agree. I think if we had won last week and won today, you probably would have seen another 1-2 players come in who, again, probably similar to what we've already purchased this summer. Just guys who might make it, might not. If we get 1 out of every 3, we're happy enough with that. the focus is very much, the spotlight's very, very much on the board and Brendan over these next 5 days. Now, if he isn't knocking the door, they'll not open it. I'll tell you that. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Stephen McGowan comes out with or the guys in the other papers. If Brendan doesn't push for it, they'll just fucking sit back and they will turn around and say, well, here, Brendan, do you know what? You're the highest paid manager in the history of this football club. We're paying you that salary because we expect you to be a better manager than anybody else in Scotland, and that you should be able to bridge any gap we've got on quality in the field with your tactical approach and your management skills and all that kind of stuff.
But if you're not acting like the big manager that you are in every aspect,
no,
it'll all crumble. And see, when players smell a wee bit of like, he's a diluted version of what I'd thought, or he seems a bit calm, everyone just seems too fucking light. I'll go back to it. Rodgers light so far.
See if he's not the same as he was first time round. The guys that were there, and I know there's only a few, but the guys that are there, they'll be going.
They'll smell it, mate.
I was expecting a bit more. I was expecting him to come in and do this, and this. He's not just. He doesn't have the same passion. He doesn't have the same. I don't know. I'd rather he just be honest and come out and tell us what's going on. But I just feel as if he's saying one thing in front of the cameras, and behind the cameras he's thinking, "What the fuck have I done here? Why have I allowed these guys to fucking suck me in again?"
Well, we're going to go to Harley's point, and he's saying Brendan chucked it at Liverpool when they didn't back him. He chucked it here when Celtic didn't get him again. He chucked it at Leicester when he wasn't backed. Why would the board be this daft? Well, Harley, thank you for your question. What I'm going to say is, I wonder, there's also this wee bit of me that Dermot's forced this to be the decision. They didn't want Brendan Rodgers, and let's be real here. There was a fallout before that had been going on for 7-8 months by the time Brendan actually left the last time, right? So see when we think about it from that point of view, why on earth would they have a sea, what's it? I was trying to say a sea change. Is it a sea change? I think I called it a sea life change once. But why would their opinion, have turned around so drastically? I just don't envisage that being the case. Is there a bit of them now just, fuck you, mate. They're now, this is payback, this is retribution. I just wonder if Dermot's went above, or not above, he is above, I suppose, but he's made a decision that he wanted to make, but rather than backing it up and being still hands-on, as you watch that man Juntigan, he's just chucked Brendan in with the same group of folk who don't like him, and they're going, fuck you. And now you're going to look like the fanny.
It doesn't help, Bhoycie. I just was checking there on the phone. It doesn't help. Enzo Maresco has gone 4 games with maximum points with Leicester City. I think in that scenario that you've painted there, Enzo Maresco was probably the choice of the board minus Desmond. And Desmond has gone and done what Desmond does. Desmond's gone and done what Desmond does. But let's hope he now, when there's an opportunity to do something, because I mean, let's look at it. Let's look at worst case scenario, and this won't happen. We do no business before Thursday. Do we win this league? Yeah, I get that. If we do no business,
Gary is brilliant. He's coming in, just for those who are listening on the audio podcast, because we will be uploading to Acast, Spotify, all that shit. He says he's coming in thinking.
I'll play on that.
He's coming in thinking that he owes us something, and the board are now lapping that up. Fucking hell.
And he can't walk away because he's going to be here for 3 years.
Totally, mate.
Well, we do no business between now and next week. That won't happen. We will do business. The left winger should be secured by...
Yeah.
From what I'm reading, that's a done deal.
I'm quite excited by that one, Terry, as well. Because this is the other thing, right? See, when I was talking about the toxicity, I want to pick your brain on this as well. Because I think any sign that comes in over the next 5 days, the first viewpoint we're going to go to is, but, right, on every player that comes in, it's going to take someone very special to come in with one hell of a CV that we all go, brilliant. I think we're going to be looking for the whole, looking to pick holes in each signing. I mean, I think this guy for the Greek Super League, he plays for Aris, Palma. He had Jota numbers last year in a very similar standard league to the SPFL, if not better. So I think that's a good signing to me. But of course, naturally, people honestly going, 4.1 million euros, is that it? And I worry sometimes with that aspect of it that we need to try and give the players still the fairest possible crack of the whip when they come in. This ain't their doing. Anyone that comes in and pulls on that shirt, we need to get right behind them.
It looks like that one's a done deal, Bhoycie. I'd be lying if I said I've ever heard of him. And I don't really care what he's done in the Greek league for whatever team he plays for. We can only judge him on what we see in a Celtic shirt. My thoughts are, though, and I thought it was very, very stark today when we're calling out for quality. Maeda just didn't have any quality today at all. And
that shot in the first half, talk me through that.
I wrote down on my page, he hit the Green Brigade. That's what he done. He fucking hit the Green Brigade with a shot from about 20 yards.
It's nearly as bad as Tony for the 4 Tims penalty effort at half time.
Was that actually him, though?
Aye, that was him.
I thought Mark was having a laugh. Oh, that's amazing.
That was Tony. Tony will be on the bus next Sunday for the end of the month.
It's a great moment just to get running up the park at Celtic Park and have a shot, even if you did fuck it. But
even if you're as bad as Maeda's.
I think Maeda has a part to play, and I have this scenario in my head where we're playing away in Europe and we're fucking completely under the cosh, and somebody just clears one out of defence and Maeda runs onto it, blitzes the defence and scores. But seeing a game where you're playing at home and you've got all the possession, and you've got 19 corners, and you're trying to break a team down, he doesn't have the quality in possession to do that, and he's not going to get in behind because they're sitting too deep. I don't see the value of Maeda in a game like today. I just don't see the value of it because his attributes are getting in behind defenses, using his pace, crossing or whatever, hitting on the break. That was never going to be the game today, and he probably has to play because of the resources that we had available. But his skill set isn't suited to what we face today, which is a packed defence and us struggling to break them down and trying to find ways to make that breakthrough. His skill set doesn't fit there, but I do think he has a role to play, and I do think, especially in that Champions League away games, I think having his pace and his work rate up front is possibly something we could utilise. But you're thinking if this guy comes in for 3.5 to 4 million, you're thinking he's probably seen as a starter. And if he's playing on the left side, you've then got Maeda, Abada, Yang, Tilio all playing for another position on the other side. Are we still in the race for Podence with 1 million wingers?
1 million wingers.
Oh, and by the way, did you notice the manager name-checked Mikey Johnstone the other day? Will be back after the international window. So all is not lost.
It feels like we've actually went back. Like, this is Brendan now resuming not just the role as manager, but actually carrying on from where he left off in terms of exactly the vibe of the club at the time. Everything feels eerily similar. It was project signing Shved and Bio in the January window. He left in the February. This summer it's been 4 or 5 project signings, and everything's just slowing down. And do you know what? I would like to see a wee bit more of that aggression and vigour though in his presses, and saying, you know, I've got 1 million of them. I don't need another centre midfielder, whatever it may be. Something needs to happen, right?
Many viewers have got Bhoycie at the minute.
407.
That is unbelievable, considering how many post-match podcasts there are on at the minute. To have 400 people engaged live. The reason I'm asking is, if you're going to stay on, I have to go for a piss. I'm absolutely.
Aye, on you go, mate. I can hold the fort, pal. On you go. Then put yourself on mute. Nobody wants to hear you leaking outside, son. I'll mute him for you. But yeah, I think my point is that when it goes back to those eerie similarities, maybe Brendan is wanting something to happen, and hopefully it's the last 2 results. But it's like he's needing like an electric shock or I don't know, something that give him a bit of a jolt and sort of find that character back. You know, something needs to piss him off so that he starts, so that he can start fucking finding his poise again and getting back to being that bit of a, that egomaniac that we all kind of joke about. I don't see any ego with Brendan right now. I see a guy who looks like he's just here to, just grateful to be back. That won't work. A club like Celtic, you can't come back there feeling grateful. Yeah, okay, deep down you might be grateful to be back. But once you're back in situ, you then need to grab it. Grab those reins. Find your bollocks. Take charge. And that's what I want to see. Glasgow CSC. It's back to the retro 2021 solo bus. Mind I used to do this somewhere. Brendan, Peg Leg Lonergan. Brendan has forgotten how tin pot the bold really is. It's an interesting point. I just wonder if he's been led up the Swanee a wee bit with whatever the debate has been where he came. You can't imagine he would go, oh, is it the exact same as the reasons I left last time? Yeah, it's the exact same. Where do I sign? I just can't see that being the logic. But then again, maybe it has been, a bit of revisionism on his part, and he's thought, it wasn't all that bad last time, and maybe I was a bit hasty, and Leicester's all the shite anyway. I don't know. I certainly hope that he can get back to being the Brendan that we all knew and loved before. And we're gutted that he left. Let's be real here. We're gutted he left because he was doing a fantastic job. Anyway, there's more comments that have starred, Terry, so we'll just come straight to you. That was a pretty long P, mate. A lot of vodka coming out there, son.
Push the old bladder as you get older. You've got all ahead of you.
Oh, a wee game of snakes and bladders, son. Right, okay. Let's have a wee look at this one from Polymorphous. I can't believe Avata or Holm never got any run today. Even if Turnbull was the man of the match, I wouldn't be fancying him for Ibrox. Question marks all over the midfield now. The Turnbull thing is one hell of an elevation, Terry, from where he was last season to now starting football matches again. 2 or 3 out of the 4 games so far he started? We'll just stand on the midfield right now because let's be honest, we always, when we praise Calmac, say when he plays, Celtic plays. I've said it a million times. You've heard that sort of phrase being coined. But I'll tell you what, he's not playing right now, and neither are Celtic. It's no coincidence. He's been substandard so far, but he's not the only one. What is our best 3 midfield? And centre midfield, I should say.
McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly.
I
Anyway,
agree.
I'll touch. Hold on. Let's go back to it. So Turnbull, I've no issue with Turnbull starting today. St Johnstone at home, one of the worst teams in Scotland all season. No problem with Turnbull starting. Expect him to score. Expect him to have a decent game. He was okay, probably first half hour. Then he just faded out. When the commentators said that there were 3 substitutes warming up, I wrote down 3 names that I thought were going to come off, and it was as obvious. Obviously, the manager had said Johnstone was coming off, but Turnbull and Maeda were easily the next 2 that were coming off. It was so obvious. It's another one of those examples. He got his opportunity today. He'd started the season, he'd looked good, then he hit a shitter, then he gets his chance again today, and he didn't take it. And I just don't know what's going to happen with David Turnbull, because we worked very, very hard to sign David Turnbull. Obviously, we went in for him, then he had the injury. We let him rehabilitate for a year. Then Lenny went to get him again. There is a high output player in there in terms of goals and assists and stuff like that. But just when I think he's starting to come onto the game, he then goes anonymous for a few weeks, and it's a difficult one. McGregor, I was watching McGregor closely today to try and work out what's going on here. And I think teams have learned from the last couple of years with McGregor absolutely bossing games, everything coming through him. The 2 centre-backs, Starfelt and Carter Vickers last year, every time those guys got the ball, they played it between each other until they got a chance to give it to McGregor. And then he built the play from there. There's a man being on McGregor. There was a man on McGregor all game today. There was a man in McGregor the Aberdeen game. There was a man in McGregor last week. And I think teams have sussed it out, which tends to happen when you've got a style of play that for a while that'll be effective. But then the other managers in the league, because they are because they know about football. They wouldn't be football managers unless they've got a good understanding of the game, and they find a way to negate the threat. And I think what all of those managers this season have done is they've just put a man under McGregor to stop that flow from the two centre-backs. If those two centre-backs can't get it to McGregor, we can't build in the same way as we have done. Those two guys then start to look longer, and you've got more of a chance of winning the ball back if the centre-backs are trying to find someone further forward than Callum McGregor coming, taking the ball off them deep and making the play. Callum McGregor hasn't become a bad footballer overnight, Bhoycie. 2 months.
No one's suggesting that either. Let's be
no,
real.
I know that. I know that.
Of course.
And some people then talk about, he played 50, 60 games last year. He didn't get a break because he played for Scotland. That's been the case for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And maybe it's possible, maybe now that he's just starting to hit 30, maybe that has taken its toll. He hasn't had a proper break probably for the last 5 years, because every time there's been a break, he's ended up playing because he's integral to the Scotland setup and all of that kind of stuff. I think teams have just sussed out a way to try and negate the influence that Callum McGregor has on the game. But that's up to him. He's now got to go and find a way. How can I get into better space? How can I start to influence in the game, even though managers are pinpointing me for attention? And if he's getting the attention, some of the other guys have got to be free. So then it falls on Turnbull, O'Reilly, Hatate, Home.
O'Reilly's a funny one as well, Terry.
Also, those guys, they've got to step up and take the responsibility.
Well, I thought O'Reilly looked good first half. You know what? He could have scored a couple.
He was good.
A couple of good saves.
If he scores, he probably had, Bhoycie, I'd say Matt O'Reilly had about three decent chances today, and maybe 2 sort of half chances. He had about 5 chances in whole. If he scores 2 or 3 of them, he's turning in a 10 out of 10 performance. Do you know what I mean? And we're having a completely different conversation. I thought O'Reilly was decent, but the difference is when that chance comes to you, you don't hit it straight at the keeper. You find the corner. You've got the composure to go and just put it into the corner. There's definitely a real quality player in Matt O'Reilly. It's plain to see.
I agree with that.
I'll be honest with you. There's also a risk that he goes before Thursday.
Well, now we're talking, Terry, because I was just about to bring that up. We've also been talking about the guys that we really need to bring in. We are still susceptible to bids. My understanding is there may well be interest from a Serie A club in Matt O'Reilly. I think he's maybe not going to go, but I think if there's significant interest there, then there'll be interest elsewhere as well in the big man. That to me would be a worry, because
O'Reilly could go.
I think that's a Rodgers player. Do you know that?
Could go. I reckon Hacksaw will be gone by Friday morning. I think he'll go.
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. Let's then do, as we've done all summer, Terry, right? Let's do the shopping list. And now it's the supermarket sweep shopping list, Terry, because it is now do or die.
Brendan's notepad.
Brendan, you get your wee notepad out and you start writing in bold capital letters what you want.
Get an A3 page instead of that wee thing.
Aye. Write it on a shark if you need to, pal. If nobody cares, it's fine. Let's have it, Terry. With the left winger looking like they're coming in, where else does he strengthen? How many does he get in your opinion?
Right, there will be a centre back. Who that is fucking anybody's guess.
Let's pick on that one first.
Yeah, there's one being linked today. Now,
can I just quickly?
This is have we got 7 centre backs?
So this is what I was going to say, Terry. We watched. We've maybe been critical. I think fairly critical, not in a personal way to Liam Scales, but today when you look at the hesitancy, I think the live chat was saying earlier. At one point, he was 14 touches before he passed. Right, but at the end of the day, also, if you say one of Aberdeen's best players last year when they finished third, is our 5th choice centre back? I would say most seasons would go, it's not bad. Aberdeen's best players in a 3rd place team last year is our 5th choice centre back. And I think we'd be okay with that.
And Bhoycie, if you said, right, you can take one of Aberdeen's best players from last season, sprinkle him with all the players from Celtic and go to Ibrox next week, have you got a chance? You would say, fucking right, we do. Do you know what I mean? But he's looked at this point in time, Liam Scales, quite rightly, will be looked at as a fucking serious weak point going into next week. Now, do we bring in a centre-back this week who has never played for the club, and do we throw him into an Ibrox atmosphere, having only had minutes, hours with his teammates? I think that's a very difficult ask. That's a big ask. Bring in somebody this week,
isn't it?
So
Southampton defender, the Brazilian.
Yeah, I've never heard of him.
They cost £6.4 million. His name is escaping. I think is it Lianca?
Right. So is he a better bet? Is he a better bet than Liam Scales? Going in next week, a guy who's never played in that fixture.
Yeah, I would guess with 30 EPL games last year at that standard, he played 30 games.
But you're trying to build a defence here, and defences, you can't just walk into a back four and fucking know your job. You just can't do it. But back fours are built.
But it's your job.
Back fours are built over years. They're built over years. Look at that partnership between Starfelt and Carter Vickers. That was built because those two played together every single week when both were fit. I think it's a big risk. I think it's a big risk to go with Scales, but I think it's an even bigger risk to bring in someone, no matter who it is, bring in someone from somewhere and fuck him into the middle of a makeshift back four and a dodgy goalkeeper and expect him to perform in a real cauldron of an atmosphere where we've got no fans. I just think we're in a fucking really difficult corner at the minute. I
think he will. I think Brendan will. I said
I'll give you one name that I think would be good, but it won't happen, and I'll tell you the reasons it won't happen. I think Johnny Evans on a 1-year deal would be an excellent signing. I would be very, very surprised if Brendan isn't on the phone to him right now as we speak. The reasons I don't think it'll get done is Ten Hag has suggested he's going to offer him a deal because he's been training with United over the summer, which means he's ready to play if he's been training at Premiership level. Now, the only thing that might change that is he hasn't been able to shift Harry Maguire. So today, Man United had Maguire and Lindelof, 120 million's worth of centre-backs on the bench. If Johnny Evans wants to play, is he going to be happy with fifth choice at Man United? He might well be. He's 36. He's ready to hang the boots up. If he comes in at Celtic, if he comes in at Celtic now, he makes a difference, right? But the only other thing that I think would stop that deal happening, I think him and Rodgers will obviously have a relationship because he was his captain at Leicester. The only thing is Johnny Evans is totally revered within the Northern Ireland support, and that support isn't overly keen on Celtic players. So would he be prepared to tarnish his relationship with the Northern Ireland support for 12 months with Brendan?
I think he signed a 1-year deal at United already, you know?
I don't think it's happened. I think it's in the pipeline. I don't think he has signed a deal yet. I think it's pretty much done. But if Brendan gets on the phone tonight and goes, right, Johnny, you're number 5 on Man United, in the hope that they need you in an emergency, I'm going to bring you in here and I'm going to play you for the rest of the season.
Look at this. Michael comes in and thanks for jumping on the bus, mate. But he says, you want to bring in Evans who's not played a single minute this season?
I want to bring him in. I'm just saying he's an option.
But that's not the point I'm making here. I'm going, if you think it's players who haven't played a single minute this season is a problem, I've got news for you. I think most people we bring in the next week won't have played a minute or many minutes.
We're feeding off squats here, boys. The only people we're getting the next 5 days are people that their club doesn't want.
Yep.
See the Eric Dyer one and stuff. I would bring Eric Dyer in all day long. Anybody that's got 50 caps for England's fucking better than what we've got. Yeah. But I just don't see, in the same way as KT, in the same way as McTominay, if you've got somebody that's earning close to 100 grand a week, I just don't see how that deal happens. I just don't see how it happens. The Tierney stuff, out of all those deals, for those sort of higher level players, the one that could have happened would have been Tierney because he would have wanted it to happen. See the other ones, they've no affinity to Celtic to make it happen. I struggle to see I struggle to see how we're bringing in anybody like that. See the likes of the kids at Man City. I know the guys that are close to the sources at Celtic. They haven't mentioned the midfielder as being wanted, but I probably think that's our best bet, is maybe getting one of those two midfielders at Man City. But I expect both of those guys to leave Man City this summer, either on loan or permanent. Doyle and McAtee, I think the names were. They're ready to play in the English Premiership. They're just never going to play for Man City. There was one other guy that was linked with Celtic last year, was Man City centre-back. I think he's England under-21 captain. Is it Harwood Bellis or something like that? That might be an option. But whenever Rodgers talked about the centre-back position, he talked about getting someone in with experience. That guy has got a lot of experience because he's been loaned out to lots of clubs and he's the England under-21 captain. But I just got the feeling we're going to bring in somebody on a short-term deal or a loan deal who is probably in their 30s, who Brendan hopes can just help the rest of the defence through a bumpy period until we get CCV and Navrowski back. That's what I see happening. I see a short-term deal for somebody in terms of defence. I mean, we're not going to go out and sign another centre-back, because when all these guys come back, we're probably going to have eight centre-backs.
What about this thing? Thank you so much for the donation, Chunks in my trunks. But always brilliant to have you in the chat, mate. We appreciate it. I don't think it'd be another out-and-out centre-back we sign. I'm in the space where I think he's identified left back. That's quite clear. Okay, as a position he wants to strengthen. I wouldn't be surprised if the left back he brings in could play centre back. Now, of course, that sounds like Kieran Tierney. That ain't going to happen now, it seems. That's broke my heart a wee bit, because I was kind of, if I'm honest, 90% sure he would have came in. I just thought that was looking more than likely with every passing day. And then I thought Tierney might ramp it up to Arsenal. That I'm going one place. If I'm going out on loan, I'm only going one place. So you can forget all the other clubs. But apparently Sociedad have offered the full 130 grand a week that he's on to cover it. Celtic would have offered at most 40 of that. So Arsenal will then say, well, the decision's out your hands, KT. Away you go to Spain, or you can sit, and sit on the bench. It wouldn't surprise me if we do bring in, whether it be a more physical player. Rodgers has spoke about that as well. If it's to be a more physical midfielder, for example, would that be someone that could also play centre back, Terry? Plug that gap in the meantime, and then start playing in the midfield once the other centre backs come back to fitness, or potentially be the left back that they target, then playing centre half in the meantime. Right now, with Greg Taylor still operating there, and then they go out and challenge for the left back spot, or take the left back spot once the centre half situations arose. I think a versatile player to come in, as opposed to a fifth first team centre back. I mean, whether people rate Stephen Welsh or not, they've just given him a new 4-year deal, so accept it. He's part of the pool of the centre backs, right? He definitely is. 5 centre backs for 2 spots, yet 2 strikers for 1. Do the math.
Right now, I would give anything to Stephen Welsh available, to be honest with you. And in terms of Chunks' point, what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter who you bring in next. If we bring in somebody in the next 5 days, we're throwing them in there. They haven't had any opportunity to play under the manager. They haven't had any opportunity to play with their colleagues. They probably are coming from out with Scotland. They've had a move, all of that kind of stuff. To throw them in there to that match, are they actually better in that game than somebody who's been about the club? He's played in the SPL. He's had a full season against SPL teams. Weighing that up, I don't care who we bring in. We can bring in anybody. Are they better placed than Scales to play in that match next week? Depending on who it is, they might be. I don't know. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to bring somebody in, throw them into. If you're your first choice back 4 and you were bringing in one player to go into that, then you could probably get away with it. But you don't have your first choice back 4, and you're bringing in someone from outside who doesn't know anything about his teammates and throwing him in there. It's different. I just think defense is a different ball game. It's a different position than all the other. I mean, attackers and that, you could go up and play, do your own thing and get away with it. I think in the defence, you can't just go, and it's not just about you. You've got to have, that whole defence has to work as a unit. And I just think next week we're going to be on. We could be sitting here, Bhoycie. Is it Sunday the game is? I think it's Sunday. We could be sitting here, Bhoycie, after that game on Sunday and going, fucking hell, thank God for Liam Scales. He could have a worldie. Sometimes in adversity, good things come from it. And I'm not giving up all hope that we don't go there and get a result. And it could happen, and we could be having a totally different conversation here next week where we're going, Jesus, Scales was brilliant. Thank God he played. Or we could be sitting here and there could be somebody new playing who's just scored the winner. It's just going to be it's going to be a fun week. It would be a lot more fun week had we won today and won last week.
Exactly.
But it's going to be a fun week. It's going to be interesting. We're all going to be waking up in the middle of the night and checking our phones to see who's being linked, who's coming in, all that kind of thing. We need a wee bit of quality, a wee fucking bit of quality.
Yeah, I've got a feeling there'll be a player, at least one that comes in that will go, fuck, okay.
I think there'll be one from Man City. I think we'll get somebody.
Yeah, I think there'll be one from Man City as well. Yeah, Doyle potentially.
I would go for the other one. I would go for McAtee. I think he's the better player out of the two. Or the defender might now become.
It'll be Doyle then.
the defender might now become the one.
Yeah, but we'll see. Terry, thanks so much for joining us today on the old P.M.P. There's 392 still in the chat. So thank you so much.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone, and misery loves company. Unfortunately, Celtic did drop points today. Roll on. A week of madness. The bus will be very busy this week. Loads of action-packed shows, and if there is, instant reaction to do, if there is any names that, wow, oh my God, a signing that we didn't expect, then we might do some shock sort of reaction shows as well. Obviously, all eyes on the board. Terry, cheers again, pal.